They're really going to pay for her?
Thank you for joining me. You're in Los Angeles.
I am. It's nice and warm here.
And certainly, I would imagine, more pleasant than the Sudan, where you just come back from. Give me an immediate update on how you found things on the ground in Sudan. Obviously, we're in the middle now of this referendum election. What's been going on there?
Well, they just crossed the 60% threshold. They need 60% of the people to vote to be able to make it official. They've crossed that. That was always the only reason it wouldn't have happened is if there was some trickery from the north. Looks like they got away with. They didn't get away with that. So that means that the referendum will be official. It's pretty much assumed that it'll be about 95% of the vote for separation. That's pretty much a given. And then it'll be the next steps, and the next steps leading to July, when they finally make it official, are negotiating oil revenues, negotiating borders, negotiating other areas like the Abyei region, which is the one of several flashpoint areas. So there's a lot of work left to go to make it an independent nation, but no one 100 days ago thought that they would be at this point. It's been a tremendous success.
I mean, here's the problem, it seems to me, and to most observers, I guess, is that on one hand, southern Sudan is getting a victory here. They're getting the independence that many of them wish. But of course, it may just trigger the very bloodshed that they've been engaged in for so long on an even more horrific scale, as the people that run the north and President Bashir decide this is a very bad idea for Sudan. They don't want this to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's absolutely true. That was the big fear. Quite honestly, it's a real compliment to a lot of the players that this didn't happen. In August and September, suddenly you saw Hillary Clinton calling this a ticking time bomb of enormous consequences. You saw President Obama speaking to the UN. Everyone talking about the fact that if we don't get on this diplomatically very quickly, it could devolve into what was the last time they went to war, 2.5 million people died. So this was an important step. First of all, it's a compliment to the newly formed or partially formed government in South Sudan. And quite honestly, the fact that they were able to put this together, this referendum together, and get a vote off. I was with the Security Council in Juba in October, and to a man, they didn't think anybody would. They said this will be delayed. There's no way they'll pull this off. So the fact they did that is a really good sign for the government.
But George, your interest in this goes back quite a long time. Your specific involvement now involves this satellite Sentinel project, which is, in a simplistic way, it is the setting up of covert satellite photography to record what you believe is almost inevitably going to be a pretty bloody fallout from this referendum. Tell me about how that's actually going to work, because some people are questioning the effectiveness of what you're doing.
Well, we don't know if it'll be effective. If we knew for sure, we would. Things like that would have probably been done a long time ago. The truth of the matter is, we are hoping that it is one of many tools to continue to apply pressure, at the very least, to gather evidence that can be used at The Hague later if there are infringements or rules broken about the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. If anyone crosses across the borders,
have you seen these cameras? Have you seen these cameras work yourself? Have you actually seen results?
Yeah, we've seen results. We have a certain responsibility. We can't just, we're not WikiLeaks. We're not just going to give you tons of information and gossip and let you just sort of sort out your own version. We're trying to use very smart analysts from Harvard. We're trying to use our on-the-ground information so that if you see troops moving from the south to the north, the one thing we probably wouldn't catch with a satellite are images of men on horseback with 50 caliber machine guns who have initiated the violence. So we have to be very careful not to use this to inflame. We have to use this to inform.
Does any part of you worry that you may have the complete opposite effect to the one that you'd like, that actually this might all backfire, people might blame you, there might be more bloodshed in George Clooney's name simply because you've attached your very famous celebrity status to this issue?
Then the option is to stay out. the option is to do nothing and to stand back and not provide help. To a man in the Sudan, in the South Sudan, and by the way, from the White House to the Security Council to the State Department, they have all asked and have been happy to receive whatever attention and help we can bring to it.
If I'm an American watching this, and obviously I'm not, I'm British, but if I was an American watching this, and there'd be millions watching, I'm thinking to myself, America's got real problems right now. It's trillions of dollars in debt, the 10% unemployment. People are having a pretty rough time. And if I'm being skeptical, I'm saying, come on, George, shouldn't charity begin at home here? Why should I care about the Sudan? Now, what do you say to those people? What do you say to the skeptics?
Well, charity should begin at home, and there's a tremendous amount of work being done, and certainly we have to pay attention to, we haven't really dealt with Katrina, we haven't dealt with an oil spill, we haven't dealt with 911 first responders. We have a lot of work to do. The Sudan is an issue we've been involved in for many, many, many years. We spend over $1 billion a year there now, basically in triage. So rather than doing that, why don't we spend no money and just our diplomatic will to be able, and no lives, to be able to try to avoid the situation before it happens? First of all, that's actually cost saving, number one. And number two, we have great interests in both versions, the North and the South Sudan, succeeding. Remember, this is the northern part of Sudan is where Osama bin Laden hid out for 12 years. So this isn't some, we have great interest in there being success here.
How much emotional energy are you expending on this?
I spend, hours a day on it. Once you're in, once you're in, you can't get out. Once you're in, you're involved. You have a responsibility to other people, and so you continue to be involved.
When you've just returned from Sudan, for those who've never been there, actually describe for us what it's like on the ground there.
It depends on where you are. We were in several different places. Abyei is a region right on the border that is disputed. The border is disputed. The amount of profit sharing is disputed. There are the Miseria and the Nakdinka are the two tribes that basically one is nomadic and grazes through the Abyei region, but they're there for only about 3 months. That's from the north. And the southerners are mostly farmers, and they live there. It's very volatile in that area. And while we were there, we were in Abyei the day before the referendum started. And a couple miles from where we were, about 10 people were killed by one group. And the violence continues. There's been 40 or so killed during this referendum in that area. It's nice to get out of that area. That area is very unpredictable and a little nerve-wracking to be in. But by the time you get down to Juba, the south, the very southern part, the main city of the south, it's like any town you'd recognize that's got all the exact same problems, some infrastructure problems and some water issues and all the normal things. But it's been a fairly successful town for quite some time.
But you've kind of glossed through there the danger there. I've been told by people close to you that you quite regularly, when you're in the Sudan, get exposed to potentially very dangerous situations. I mean, if I was George Clooney, and let's face it, the odds of that are pretty slim, of even coming close to being George Clooney, much as I'd like to be. But if I was, why am I risking my life for this? Why does this cause mean so much to you?
Well, I have to say you have a very nice tie, and I think that you could be George.
Thank you, George.
And I do enjoy referring to myself in the third person. George likes to do that. The danger in getting involved sometimes, particularly on the level that I've been involved, is in dipping your toe in these issues. You actually have to be there. You'll hear things in the news today if you look it up, and they'll talk about the Abyei region. They'll always say the oil-rich Abyei region, which makes it a real fertile area for battling over because of oil, which of course it isn't. In fact, Abyei is oil poor, but that's years ago that they had oil, and that was the issue then. The issues now are more about grazing rights and things like that. So it's important to be informed, because I live in a world now where if you get things wrong, then the whole effort you're making can be disenfranchised. So you have to be very careful how you do it, and you need to be informed. You need to be there.
How close have you come to getting hurt?
Not really. I mean, it's in general not political. Strangely enough, the North has no interest in the attention that would come from any Westerner, in particular a well-known one, being harmed. The dangers are more along those roads at night, those dirt roads at night when they drop a tree down and make you get out and do checkpoints. And there's always a danger when they're 13-year-old kids with Kalashnikovs in the middle of nowhere, and that's the dangers are more random than you would think.
Have you discovered that you're braver than you may have thought you were?
No. I try. I'm like Bert Lahr in the Wizard of Oz. when they pull me out, I'm holding my tail and cry.
Well, we're actually going to bring somebody on after the break, George, who can probably clarify that for us. It is someone you know rather well, someone who I believe describes himself as the guy in the family that got all the looks.
He did get all the looks.
And it's your father. It's your father, Nick, who's coming in now. Welcome, Nick.
You got all that right. You got all that right, Piers. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to examine you. No, you did get all the looks. Sorry, George. And no goatee, no silly goatee beard. Well done, Nick.
It's pain relief without the pills.
No pills, no pain. How can you get pain relief without taking pills around the clock? Try Thermacare heat wraps for all-day relief without pills.
I was surprised. Thermacare worked all day.
You feel the heat and it relaxes and unlocks the muscle. You got to try it.
Thermacare. More effective for back pain than the maximum dose of acetaminophen, the medicine, and Tylenol. Go to thermacare.com today for a $3 off coupon. Thermacare. No pills, no pain. Just relief.
Legend has it that Aphrodite, Greek goddess of love and desire, introduced the pomegranate to the island of Cyprus, where it was declared an aphrodisiac. And only Pom Wonderful has the juice of 4 whole pomegranates and is backed by modern science. Powerful then, Pom Wonderful now.
This site has a 4-star hotel for $159. Should I try Priceline instead?
No. It's a sale. Nothing beats a sale. Wrong move. You could save up to half off that sale when you name your own price on Priceline. But this one's a deal. Trust me. It's only pretending to be a deal. Here, bid $79.
Got it. Wow.
You win this time, good twin. There's no disguising the real deal.
Can I eat heart healthy without giving up taste? A man can only try. And try. And try.
Honey Nut Cheerios taste great and can help lower cholesterol.
Be happy. Be healthy.
Rudy Giuliani, Piers Morgan, CNN Monday night, 9 Eastern.
We've now been joined by Nick Clooney, George's father. You were just listening, I know, backstage to George talking there about his time in Sudan. He's been 6 times. You've been yourself in 2006. So you've seen at first hand how dangerous it can be there. As a father, do you worry about George when he goes off on these crusades there?
The answer to that question is yes. I'm nervous anytime he goes over the border into Sudan, anywhere around there, over into Chad or whatever part of that world that he finds himself. It's an extremely dangerous place to be. There are a lot of dark things that can happen there. And yes, I'm glad that he went, and I'm glad that he's going, and I'm glad that he's doing what he is doing and helping the way that he's helping. But I am very nervous every minute he's there.
George, let me ask you, why do you think it's such a hard sell to the American public, Sudan? Why are you constantly fighting this kind of uphill struggle?
I think a lot of times, and I think most newsmen would agree, my father being one of them, that it's not just necessarily a hard news sell to Sudan. It's a hard news sell many of the hot spots around the world. It's hard to get Burma on the news. It's hard. There's a lot of places that are difficult. The Ivory Coast gets there when the violence spikes. Darfur is there when the violence spikes. Other than that, it's very hard to keep things in the news because, the idea of a 24-hour news cycle doesn't necessarily mean more news. It just means sort of the same news more often.
Do you get angry when people sneer at you? When they say, what's he doing wasting his time over there? He's just doing it for self-aggrandizing reasons. Typical Clooney. I mean, you've read all that stuff. I've seen a few comments from you occasionally where it looks like it's got to you, but it would certainly get to me. I'd want to have it out with these people.
Well, I don't care. I mean, I really don't care because, if you're going to stand on the sideline and throw stones, then get out of my way. We've got work to do. I don't. If they've got something they want to work on, then go work on it. Good for them. But self-aggrandizing. I don't need to be more famous. I've got all the attention I need, and I'm just trying to use that attention on other people. But I don't care what other people think about that. Most people are very supportive, and the ones who aren't, then, get out of your little room with your computer, your dark room with your computer, and go do something.
Nick, as George's father again, do you get incensed on his behalf?
You bet. I get steamed much more than he does, absolutely. Because there's no way to do Sudan light. You must understand, this is very hard work. And George is committed to doing it, and I'm committed to supporting him in that. And if supporting him means sometimes telling somebody who doesn't know what he or she is talking about to shut up, I will do that.
And do you use maybe juicier language than that?
Almost never. Almost never. I've been around microphones too long.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. For you, I'll use the juicier language. Right?
Because
I saved that for you.
I look at the pair of you and I see people acting on real personal principle. And it's very courageous to do what you're doing. And I went to Johannesburg, which is dangerous.
Piers, why both of us, I think, bristle when you say courageous. We have been around courageous people. I mean, we go there. As George suggested, we dip our toe in. We're there for a week or we're there for 10 days. Those folks are living there every day and in the midst of real danger. Those are courageous people. There are so many ways they can die.
George, there are lots of Hollywood stars who latch on to causes, and sometimes more than one. I saw an interesting thing that you said recently where you said the important thing if you're going to do this, you choose one cause and you commit yourself to it properly and you are passionate about that cause. Expand on that for me, but also explain perhaps in more detail why it was Sudan for you that really caught your attention, your passion.
Well, first of all, I think the idea is that you have to, I worked on the Haiti telethon, for instance, or the tsunami telethon. There are things you can do that you can get involved in, Katrina. There are elements that you can, it doesn't mean that you can only be involved in one. But if there's one that you care about, you have to be informed. You have to really, you have to be able to answer the critics. You have to be able to, and sometimes those critics being, for instance, Omar al-Bashir is a critic.
Yeah.
I have to be able to answer him. I have to be able to answer when I sit in front of the Security Council, one of the rotating members of the Security Council or the Chinese ambassador, when they say, well, these are just rebels, you can say, well, rebels don't have tanks, they don't have planes. You have to be informed on it. And I think that's the reason that you have to try to, when I say pick one, it doesn't mean don't help out other people. It just means find one that you really can be knowledgeable about and understand more than the average person would or should, for that matter. Number one. And then the reason the Sudan was a natural progression from Darfur, I was reading in 2004, 2005, the Nick Kristof articles in the New York Times about what was going on in Darfur. And they were Pulitzer Prize winning pieces, but they don't get enough attention. They weren't getting as much attention. There was a rally coming, a Save Darfur rally coming, and I called up my dad and I said, he'd done stories over the years as a newsman that would end up being bumped by a Liz Taylor story, and which happens, and so he used to complain about that in the
or
70s.
A George Clooney story, of course.
Well, that's exactly right. So I said, let's say you be the newsman and I'll be Liz Taylor, and we'll go to the Sudan, or we'll go to Darfur, and and you cover the story, and I'll help bring some attention to it. And that was all. That's how we got started.
George, do you believe there's going to be peace in Sudan in the next few years, or are you quite pessimistic about that?
No, I'm quite optimistic about it. I'm realistic about it. I know all the difficulties. I know the problems. But I must say that when you stand there and see, when you see millions of people, but personally seeing thousands and thousands of people standing in line for 2 or 3 days, voting for their independence for the first time in their lives, it's really something to see. It's not something you'll often see in your lifetime. And I hold out great hope. You know, can this be a failed state? Of course, not to the extent of Somalia. There's not, you know, there isn't the sort of the dysfunction in the government to do that. But there is dysfunction, and could it fall apart and could it not work? Absolutely. But what we do know is, had we not gotten to this point, we would be plunged back into war, and if we were plunged back into war, we know it would be substantial. We've seen this happen twice before with the same players, with Omar Bashir and his government in Khartoum.
President Bashir is by common consent, a deeply unpleasant piece of work. He's going to take probably losing southern Sudan as a pretty crushing blow to his ego, never mind anything else. Presumably, you don't have any dealings with that guy. He must loathe and detest the sight of you by now. Are you worried for your own personal safety, the more high profile you get?
No, I'm not worried at all about that. That's really, honestly, I'm not being brave. I'm not worried about it. I think that the truth of the matter is the president in this situation did the only thing he could do, which was help avoid war. They don't need another war in the south. They're concerned with rebels and fighting in Darfur now. They've got enough. They don't want to fight a war on 2 or 3 fronts. So he was forced with making a choice that he had no other choice to do. You know, the government of the North has been in some ways helpful in this process. And because remember that no one benefits from a failed northern Sudan. Neither of these countries will benefit from that. The world won't. So we need them to succeed. We need both countries to be successful.
We're going to have a break now. When we come back, George, and to Nick, actually, given your background as a journalist, I want to talk to you about the media, about the current state of American politics, Sarah Palin, crosshairs, and in particular, photography and photographers, given what you're doing with your satellite system in the Sudan.
Okay.
I heard a rumor that you were going to challenge me today. My friend, you have a lot to prove here.
Piers Morgan, CNN tomorrow night, 9 Eastern.
Sure, you know oil and natural gas fuel transportation and comfort. Bet you didn't know oil and natural gas fuel American jobs. 9.2 million of them. Now that's fuel for our economy. Log on to learn more.
She felt lost until the combination of 3 good probiotics in Phillips Colon Health defended against the bad gas, diarrhea, and constipation.
And it helped balance her colon.
Ooh, now that's the best part.
I love your work.
Phillips Colon Health. Funny how nature just knows how to make things that are good for you. New V8 V-Fusion Plus Tea. 1 combined serving of vegetables and fruit with the goodness of green tea and powerful antioxidants. Refreshingly good.
Why are you looking at me like that?
The most provocative film of the year, as it was meant to be seen. Uncut and uncensored.
I got a feeling about it.
Ryan Gosling, Michelle Williams.
You think you can love somebody just by looking at them?
Blue Valentine. Rated R. Now playing select cities.
Think more oil means more oil wells? Well, with advanced drilling from a single location, we can now tap oil and natural gas over there, and there, and there. Increasing our energy while decreasing our impact. Log on to learn more.
CNN this Tuesday night. It's the State of Your Union, and CNN's best political team brings it to you live. CNN Tuesday night, 7 Eastern.
The health care bill not only is a bad product, but it was concocted by a bad process. In locked rooms in the middle of the night with people having never read over 2,300 pages of the most massive policy that has ever been concocted and pushed on the American people. And despite the kicking and screaming of Americans who say, we don't want this, Congress insisted we were going to have it anyway. Well, it's one thing to have to take our medicine when we're kids, but American voters are grown-ups. We expect and demand to be treated like it, and we weren't. Well, now, we'll do our spanking on the Congress and show them that we still rule in this country. That's the way it's supposed to be, and the way it will be when we get this petition signed.
Call right now to sign the petition or go online before serious damage is done to our healthcare system and our economy. We must leave Washington no options.
We can do something about it. Join me in the most massive petition drive the nation has ever seen and help us repeal it now.
Selling the Girl Next Door. CNN, Sunday night, 8 Eastern.
George, I want to show you a bit of footage, and it'll be one that's familiar to you, and there is a reason to my madness when you watch it.
Okay.
This was at a premiere that you did soon after you were pretty lively in your castigation of paparazzi photographers following the death of the Princess of Wales. And I remember it well. I was a newspaper editor at the time, so I felt this quite keenly. And I was curious because your father, obviously, a lifetime in journalism, you took quite a stand there. First of all, what was your feeling when those photographers decided to exact their horrific revenge and lay down their cameras?
Well, I love the fact that that they covered themselves not taking pictures of me. I don't care. It was amazing how many people saw them not taking pictures of me. I don't care. You have to remember that the Princess Diana thing actually was there was a great sort of outpouring of obviously there was a great emotional moment. There's also a period of time where many actors were coming out saying that something has to be done to restrict them. And the fact is, if you ever look at the press conference that I had, and the reason I had to give that press conference was because I'd led a charge against hard copy, including a boycott of Entertainment Tonight at that point, for a whole other reason months and months before. So suddenly I was the de facto spokesman for this. And there were a bunch of actors who were going to hold a press conference saying that we have to restrict them. And I, as a son of a newsman, said that not only, basically my press conference said, as uncomfortable as they are, I'm more uncomfortable with the idea of restricting any form of journalism, even an intrusive paparazzi. So the funniest thing was, it was sort of taken in the wrong way, but I don't care. I mean, you can take my picture.
The reason I showed that footage was there is a certain irony, I guess, that you're now deploying effectively paparazzi covert photography in the Sudan. Now, I'm sure you'll argue, quite rightly, that it's obviously ostensibly in the public interest to do this. But it made me wonder, both for you and your father, where you think the line should be drawn with photography and paparazzi.
So Piers, I'm also watching your house. So
really?
It's not just the Sudan. Oh, yes. And we'll talk about it later because there's some cash coming my way.
Look, me and your girlfriend are just good friends. All right? She was just delivering milk.
we just met. You drink a lot of milk, apparently.
Well, where is the line for you, George? I mean, as one of the most photographed guys in the world, where do you think the line should be? I'll tell you why I asked this. I suppose as an editor, I would play devil's advocate and say this to you. How do you feel specifically about, say, a famous actor or actress who sells their wedding or their baby's christening for $1 million and they keep it? It's not for charity. It's just a little nest egg for them. And then they complain about the paparazzi. Do they have any rights to privacy when they do that?
I couldn't really argue for or against that issue. I could argue the idea of when Brad and Angie know that a picture of their new kid is worth, $5 million. Why not make sure it goes to a charity and take the picture and also take away the bounty hunting that comes? Because remember this, when someone says, well, a picture of, Brad and Angie's new baby is worth $5 million, people are willing to do pretty much anything and break pretty much any law for $5 million. So, I understand the diffusing of it at times, the way to diffuse it. Where you draw the line, I don't know where you draw the line. I always, I'm disturbed by the idea that you're not trying to catch me doing something stupid. You're trying to create me doing something stupid. When I'm walking through an airport and you've got a camera in front of me and you ask me, hey, who's the fat girl you're walking next to or something like that, that's not trying to catch me doing something dumb. That's trying to make me do something dumb. But I have to take that, and that's fair enough, and I have to be a grown-up and handle it. I understand. I understand what it's like to be in this position. I'm the son of a newsman.
Well, I was going to ask you. Let me ask Nick here. I mean, you are a newsman.
Yeah.
And it is a fine line here because the commercialization of celebrity, particularly in the last 10 years, has been such that many celebrities consort with paparazzi. I know that from the other side of the fence. They make money out of the...
What we've done, Piers, is we've lost privacy. So we might as well just admit that. Some of the Supreme Court rulings, some things that have happened after that, there is no... Relatively speaking, there is little or no privacy left anymore. That battle has already been lost. The question is, can we recover a current word, civility, about it? Is there some way that a person may be allowed to go out and have dinner with his family or her family without having a camera in the nose of the 3-year-old?
Having whacked the media, I guess, for that part of it, obviously... I'll maybe come back to you, George, here. The media are hugely important to your campaign now. I mean, you doing shows like this, you giving interviews to newspapers and magazines. You need the world's media to come with you on this.
Sure.
So there is a deal with the devil to be struck, isn't there, when it's important?
Well, but the deal was struck long before, I got involved. The idea, for instance, is, there was this whole argument, well, we need you. Now, you having been on the other side may have seen what now are people who contact the paparazzi ahead of time. That's not, no one showed up at my house and started taking my pictures before I was famous. They showed up after I was famous and made money off of it. This all exists. And I'm not complaining. I'm a grown-up. I know it. I understand it. It all exists. So what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do and what Bono was very good at and what Brad and Angie are good at and Matt Damon, and I could go down a list of a lot of actors and singers who are doing it, is saying, well, this exists. So we're going to use it to make people watch something that news organizations, quite honestly, are failing at, have been failing at. Take 5 or 6 minutes out of your news program, not your entertainment shows, not Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood or any of the shows you want. Take 5 minutes out of your news program that you have now been dedicating to some reality star, or me for that matter, I don't care, whoever you've been dedicating it to inform again, to continue to inform, because the entire idea of news when the FCC was handing out licenses back in the 40s was that you were going to lose money on news, but you owed society, you were responsible to give information, and you were going to have to lose money, you're going to have to do that, and you could make money off of the entertainment. Well, let's get back to keeping some news in.
We're going to have a break again, and when we come back, I want to ask you, George, and you, Nick, really, about the relationship with the modern media in America and the political system.
I was driving to Northern California. My son was asleep.
I really didn't see it coming.
I didn't realize I was drifting into the other lane.
It got my attention, telling me that I wasn't paying attention.
I had no idea the guy in front of me had stopped short, but my car did.
My car did.
Thankfully, my Mercedes did.
A world you can't predict demands a car you can trust. The E-Class. See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for exceptional offers through Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. And now, join us on Facebook and take part in the world's first Twitter-fueled race.
It's incredible prices store-wide at Joseph A. Bank. Saturday only. Signature suits. Regularly $7.95. An incredible $197. Plus, wool sport coats and cashmere sweaters. $79. Even executive dress shirts and sport shirts. $19.99. Saturday only at Joseph A. Bank. What brought you to eHarmony?
I didn't feel like I was just exposed and anybody could look at me when they wanted. With eHarmony, I felt a sense of control. You show what you want to show when you want to show it. I felt empowered.
Sounds like it.
Review your matches free at eHarmony.com.
All premiere week long, the stars came out for Piers.
Piers, you're on a roll.
Next week, more big moments on CNN's new 9 o'clock. Rudy Giuliani, Kim and Kourtney Kardashian, Rod Stewart, and Colin Firth.
When people call you talentless, how do you react?
Piers Morgan, CNN all next week, 9 Eastern. AC360 reopens the biggest cold cases in U.S. history. An AC360 investigation. CNN coming up next.
Ask me.
Even if you think your mattress is just fine.
Ask me what it's like to get your best night's sleep every night.
Why not talk to someone who's sleeping on the most highly recommended bed in America? It's not a Sealy or a Simmons or a Serta.
Ask me about my Tempur-Pedic.
Ask me how fast I fall asleep.
Ask me about staying asleep.
These are actual Tempur-Pedic owners. Ask someone you know. Check out Twitter. Try your friends on Facebook. You'll hear it all, unedited.
Ask me how it feels after 10 years.
Ask me if it's a good value. Just ask me.
There are over 4 million Tempur-Pedic owners, and they're more satisfied than owners of any traditional mattress brand.
Ask me why I feel better every morning.
Ask me why someone who's never had an ache or a pain is in love with this bed.
Start asking real owners.
Ask me how we took the first step.
Take the first step. Call today for your free information kit with DVD. 1-800-767-9698 or visit Tempur-Pedic.com.
Tempur-Pedic, the most highly recommended bed in America.
Starring The Girl Next Door, CNN, Sunday night, 8 Eastern.
George, I suppose the obvious question for you, you're a guy from a media family, and you're an American, and right now there's this huge debate going on in your country about how aggressive politicians should be, and specifically after the Arizona shooting, we had the furore over any apparent link. It turned out it probably wasn't, but a link between Sarah Palin's infamous now Crosshair website, where she targeted her opponents in that way. What is your view? Lots of people are clamoring for a cooling down. Is that realistic, do you think? Where do you think the line should be drawn here?
You know, look, I thought that President Obama gave, as he does when he needs to, gave one of the great speeches I've heard in a long, long time. And I think what was beautiful about what he said was that it doesn't matter whether it had anything to do with the shooting in Arizona, whether you could find a link or you can't. Let's use this moment. Let's use this tragedy to improve on ourselves and improve on the vitriol that we've been using, the language that we've been using. I haven't seen this kind of anger in my lifetime towards anyone, particularly from one to the other. I would argue the president's been taking some pretty good hits along the way. You know, when you're calling someone un-American and the president of the United States, he's I'm a big fan of his, and I like him a lot. He's a very smart man, and he's a good man, and he wants to do the best for his country. Now, you can disagree with how he goes about it, but I think it's a nice idea to try to tone down some of the vitriol between everyone. Now, will it last? Of course not. It'll last a week, but it's aiming us in the right direction, and I think if you hit the reset button every once in a while, that's probably a good thing.
George, Hollywood has a history of actors who turn into successful politicians, Ronald Reagan, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The more I see you popping up on these sort of shows, the more I'm thinking, why not? Why wouldn't you run for presidency?
Why would I?
It can't be any worse than being a movie star, can it?
Really, I mean, honestly, my job is as good as they get. No, why would you change them? No, listen, the truth of the matter is, let's use the president that we have now as an example. In every way, wants to do the right thing, kind, considerate, compassionate. He's the guy that I would want in charge, and he's having a very, very hard time. Why would anyone want to be in any of those positions? I applaud anyone who goes into public service.
You see, I would throw that straight back at you and say, there's George Clooney, handsome, smart, well-educated, great father, better looking, obviously. You've got all the same kind of adjectives.
Looking than I am. Do you think he's better looking than I am?
No, you're better looking than him.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm the best looking of the three of us. So this is an awkward moment for George.
He's there.
You're faced with two better looking heartthrobs. But no, I suppose the point, I would throw it back at you, George, and say for precisely the reasons that you are doing what you're doing in Sudan, that's precisely why you should consider this, because you've already dipped your toes in this water. You didn't have to.
No, but I don't have anyone else that I have to answer to. I get to turn around and say, here's what I think, specifically what I think and what I believe, and I stand by it. Now, you can not like me for it, or you can help me with it, but I don't represent a lot of other people. I don't have to answer to anyone.
No, but there's a downside to that, George, is that you don't get the power either. And if you were in office, you could actually make things happen. It would be your role as a leader and a lawmaker. You can get this stuff through.
Really? Because we see that working so well right now?
You've got to hope, George.
Yeah, you do have to hope with a nice polarized government. Look, I think that I am best suited as an advocate for issues that I can be informed on. And in any way I can help, I'm happy to do it. And I look to people who are far smarter and far better at this than I am to lead.
When we come back, George, I want to talk to you about your parents, and brilliantly, I can then talk to one of your parents about you.
Oh, good.
Uh-oh.
Now we're talking.
Isn't this a half-an-hour show?
We're making it a three-parter, that. It's Clooney week.
Oh, man.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Was Abe Lincoln honest?
Does this dress make my backside look big?
Perhaps. Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Is having a snowball fight with pitching great Randy Johnson a bad idea?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe this was a bad idea.
What you doing?
Snapple stuff.
Hey, what's that stuff?
Give me that stuff.
Have you seen this stuff?
Dying stuff? That stuff's the best.
Didn't we find better stuff?
Same stuff, just dying.
There's stuff going on.
Why don't they tell me this stuff? Jim, what's the deal with this stuff?
Look, everyone. Dice Snapple's made with the same stuff. Healthy green tea, tasty black tea.
This is just zero-calorie stuff.
Bingo. Healthy green tea, tasty black tea, 0 calories.
I love this stuff.
Snapple, the best diet stuff on earth.
In America, there's an energy you can feel. Energy created by American workers and American jobs. Jobs that will get our economy back on its feet and make us more competitive. Jobs powered by affordable energy, generated by our most abundant domestically produced fuel, coal. The source of nearly half our electricity. It is America's power.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Tonight on 360 at 10 p.m. Eastern, we have breaking news. Keith Olbermann, the lead anchor at MSNBC, is out of a job. The announcement was made just a short time ago on that network. We're going to have full details. We're going to have a panel of media writers trying to find out exactly what went on behind the scenes that led to tonight's dramatic announcement. We'll have full details in about 15 minutes at the top of the hour.
Can I eat heart healthy without giving up taste? A man can only try. And try. And try.
Honey Nut Cheerios taste great and can help lower cholesterol.
Be happy. Be healthy.
An everyday moment can turn romantic anytime. And when it does, men with erectile dysfunction can be more confident in their ability to be ready with Cialis for daily use. Cialis for daily use is a clinically proven low-dose tablet you take every day, so you can be ready anytime the moment's right.
Tell your doctor about your medical condition and all medications, and ask if you're healthy enough for sexual activity.
Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure.
Do not drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away.
Ask your doctor if Cialis for daily use is right for you. For a 30-tablet free trial offer, go to Cialis.com.
Every year, Auto Pacific asks people how satisfied they are with their new cars on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being very satisfied. Well, apparently, 2011 Sonata owners answered very satisfied a lot. In fact, more than any other owners of any other car ever. Which makes us feel very, well, you know.
George, you're obviously very close to your parents. I can tell that by the joshing we've had with your father here. What do your parents mean to you? What values do you think they instilled in you as a young George?
My father taught me never to mix grain and grape at a very young age.
Very important.
And I can't tell you how important that's been over the years.
Well, my father's advice is quite similar. He told me only two pieces of advice ever. He said, always be nice to policemen and always drink the best possible French wine that you can afford, which I thought was great advice.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
I didn't get the police advice from my dad. Thanks.
Perhaps you should have done.
Perhaps.
No, but to be serious, what did they teach you?
Now, listen, I'm very lucky. I'm lucky because both of my parents taught us at a very early age that you have a responsibility to, when you're lucky and when you get lucky, you have a responsibility to share that luck and to help look out for people that are less fortunate than you and to challenge people that are in power. And both of them have done that their whole lives. And it was a great growing up. You got in trouble when you didn't do that. And there were times when that wasn't particularly pleasant as a young man, but it was they were always very good lessons that you carry with you through life.
Nick, let me ask you a double-edged question here. What's been the proudest you've ever been of George, and also the least proud?
Well, let's see. The proudest I have been of George is, there's something about. Let me put it this way. When somebody asks me what was the best moment of my life, I always say, I don't think I've had that yet. I have been proud of George every day of his life. And I'm prouder all the time because he keeps growing all the time. I wish he'd stop. He's so far distanced himself past all the rest of us that it's remarkable. He hasn't plateaued yet. He's still getting there. And I'm saying all of this because I'm planning for him to be my retirement plan. And I plan to live in a very exotic way.
And although you've been proud of him every day of your life, there must have been a day when the pride was at a slightly lower level than it is today.
Let me think. Now, which wreck was it?
What's been the naughtiest he's ever been, would you say?
Naughty, yes. He's been but he's never been mean-spirited. And that would be the only thing I'd be ashamed of.
I can imagine him being quite mischievous when he was young.
Absolutely. But always funny. At the end of the day, he made me laugh.
Well, what values did you think you instilled in him? What was important to you that when he grew up, he adhered to a certain code of behaviour, as far as you're concerned?
Piers, I know what you mean here, and I'd like to think that I had something to do with both of the kids and how they turned out, but I'm not sure that I did. It seems to me we really think too much of that. If George had turned out to be a serial killer, I would not be blaming myself. Count on it. Instead, what we're talking about...
There's still time.
Yes, and there may be a moment.
There may be things we don't know about George.
Maybe right at the end of this interview.
Don't check. He might kill me at the end of this interview.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. But I think the one thing that we always had, the family always had, was, George paraphrased it better than I think it. If we have a philosophy, it is to help those with less power than we, and to challenge those with more power than we. Mm-hmm. And if I was able to in any way pass that along to both of my kids, then I'll be content.
George, your father mentioned there that the greatest moment of his life may not have come yet. I don't want you to cop out and use the same answer. I mean, if you were to actually take your life to date, if you could replay one moment in your life before you die, what would it be?
Well, I was thinking about that when you asked the question, and, I was going to give a smart-ass answer, but the truth is I have to say that being here on this show is the greatest moment.
You do realise that will now be the promo I run for the next 10 years, don't you? You are aware of what you've done.
That'll last for a while.
We're going to go to our final break now, and when we come back, I'm actually going to ask both of you the same thing, which is, what the hell is it like to be George Clooney?
In Persian mythology, warriors ate pomegranates before battle, believing they would be rewarded with invincibility and bodies as solid as bronze. And only Pom Wonderful has the juice of 4 whole pomegranates and is backed by modern science. Powerful then, Pom Wonderful now.
I have asthma, and when my symptoms came back, I get this tightness in my chest.
So I went back to my doctor again.
We chose Symbicort to help control my asthma symptoms all day and night.
Symbicort improves my lung function starting within 15 minutes.
Symbicort will not replace a rescue inhaler for sudden symptoms. It is a combination of 2 medicines and should not be taken more often than prescribed.
Symbicort contains formoterol. Medicines like formoterol increase the risk of death from asthma problems, and children and adolescents may have an increased risk of being hospitalized for asthma problems.
Symbicort is not for people whose asthma is well controlled with a long-term asthma control medicine like inhaled corticosteroids. Once your asthma is well controlled, your doctor will decide if you can stop Symbicort without loss of control and prescribe a long-term asthma control medicine.
Be sure to see your doctor if your asthma does not improve or gets worse.
Symbicort is a good choice to help control my asthma all day and night.
Ask your doctor if Symbicort is a good choice for you.
If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Why are you looking at me like that?
The most provocative film of the year, as it was meant to be seen. Uncut and uncensored.
I got a feeling about it.
Ryan Gosling, Michelle Williams.
You think you can love somebody just by looking at them?
Blue Valentine. Rated R. Now playing select cities.
To stay fit, you might also want to try lifting one of these. A unique sea salt added to over 40 Campbell's condensed soups helps us reduce sodium, but not flavor. So do a few lifts. Campbell's, it's amazing what soup can do.
Working on the assumption that you may run again, how would you do things differently?
I try to win. Rudy Giuliani, Piers Morgan, CNN Monday night, 9 Eastern.
I'm Jillian Michaels, TV's toughest trainer. And now you can burn 5 times the calories working out around the world with me. Introducing the new Nordic Track Incline Trainer. The ultimate weight loss machine just got better. iFit Live, powered by Google, brings the world to your feet. Walk on the Golden Gate Bridge. Run on the beaches of Hawaii. Hike the Rocky Mountains. The new design of the Incline Trainer automatically inclines to 40% and declines to 6% to simulate the world's terrain, so you burn 5 times the calories. No other machine does that. And all you have to do is walk. Plus, with the innovation of iFit Live, I'll control the speed and the incline of your workout so you get results. Guaranteed.
Call or go online to order your new Nordic Track X7i.
Get this experience, the best trainer, and I guarantee you'll get amazing results.
For more information, call 1-888-715-8532 or go online to NordicTrack.com. House Speaker Sean Boehner one-on-one with Kathleen Parker. CNN Wednesday night, 8 Eastern.
George, I was going to start this final segment with you by asking about the glory of being George Clooney, but you've just told me that you've got a bout of malaria. It doesn't sound that great.
Well, you know, even with malaria, it's just good fun.
I mean, you're looking slightly overheated now, George. I thought it was down to me, but it turns out it's actually this... I mean, you do get malaria flare-ups quite regularly, do you?
No, I've had it twice. This is just... you know, I guess the mosquito in Juba looked at me and thought I was the bar.
Let me ask you again the question before I knew about the malaria. What is it like being George Clooney? I mean, serious.
Oh, listen, I have a very good life. I'm infinitely, I'm a lucky man. You know, I was a struggling actor for a long period of time. Before that, I sold ladies' shoes at a store called McAlpin's, and I sold insurance door to door. That's a fun job. And I had a lot of, cut tobacco for a living. And then somewhere along the way, I got lucky, and truly lucky. I know, I don't want that to sound like false modesty. If I did 8 television series before ER hit. And if we didn't get a Thursday night at 10 o'clock time slot, I wouldn't have the career I have.
And Nick, I mean, you're Nick Clooney. Yep. Do you ever wake up some days and think, I wish I was George Clooney for the day?
Oh, God, no.
No?
Oh, no.
You wouldn't swap his life for yours?
Not at all, no. I have a perfect life. Mine is much better than George's. And I'll tell you why. He understood this very early on, back before he became very famous with ER. We had a conversation where he said, Pop, I'm in the best position in the world because I'm the best known unknown actor in Hollywood, which means I can make a very good living, I can buy a house, I can have a good life, and I don't have to put up with any of the nonsense that all of the people who are much higher profile do. Well, I'm that guy. I'm the best-known unknown newsman in the entire United States of America.
That's a great title,
It's
isn't
a
it?
perfect
The
one.
best-known unknown newsman in America. I love that. So that's a movie.
I had not one paparazzi.
That's his book.
That's true.
You've had one of the great marriages. And in fact, you renewed your vows in 2007 to George's mum. He's never gone down the aisle. I mean, as his parents, you sit there yearning for the moment.
I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. We've been married, Nina and I have been married 51 years. George has looked at that and said, I'm not getting married. I want you to think about that. Okay? And that's the end.
George, is he right?
Exactly. I hate to blow your whole news story, but I was married, so I gave it a shot.
Your dad seems to have forgotten this, like me.
Clearly. Yeah, so I've proven how good I was at it, and I just,
Do you think will you ever remarry, George?
There we go. You
I'm allowed
just waited
one,
for the
am I?
last segment to pull it off.
You don't have to answer.
I'm not going to. Hey, Piers, are you married?
I've just got remarried. That's why I asked you the question.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah,
well,
literally
congratulations.
about 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Do you ever, because of your passion for Sudan, George, and I do want to end by returning to the reason we did this interview, when you see the vast amount of poverty that you get in places like Sudan, obviously you've got vast amounts of cash and there's a huge contradiction there. Did you feel guilty about money? Do you ever have that feeling that you wish you weren't super rich, you could just give it all to these people?
Well, I don't ever wish I wasn't super rich. I do have incredible guilt about it. I'm an Irish Catholic. I used to fill my shoes with gravel and jump off the top of my bunk beds for penance. So I have great understanding of guilt. You try to share a lot of it, and you try to be, you try to spend as much time and as much money as you can doing it. And at times it is hard to reconcile the two. But the other version of it is not doing anything, and that's not really an option. So you try to find someplace in between.
Give me an honest answer to this last question. If I could offer you next year Best Actor, the Oscar, or I could offer you genuine prospect of peace in Sudan, which one would you take? Either or.
Oh, I think the Oscar. Yeah.
And that is why I love George Clooney. Right at the death.
No, listen. The truth of the matter is, I think that we're in for a long, long, long haul in the Sudan to get there, to get South Sudan to peace. I worry about them a lot. I worry about what's to come with them, and I hope that people like yourself and people who are in the world of information are able to help keep it public, because the more we keep our eye on them, the better chance they have, and that's something I'm really concerned with. It's why I'm happy and actually I'm thrilled that you're having this conversation and talking about something that's very hard to get people to talk about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, for my part, George, I'm pleased to do it because I actually think what you're doing is a remarkable thing, and I wish that more people with your huge celebrity status globally would do this kind of thing. And to the cynics that have a go at you, I think they should just shove it, frankly.
Would you tell them that?
I will. You know what?
Okay.
Shove it. George Clooney, thank you very much. Nick Clooney, thank you very much. It's
Nice
been a
to
real
meet you.
pleasure. Thank you.
See you, Bob.
On Monday night, I speak to Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, about his run for the White House. Working on the assumption that you may run again, and I'm assuming you will. How would you do things differently?
I mean, if I ran again, how would I do it differently? I try to win.
And talking of winners, here's my colleague Anderson Cooper at AC360.
Do you think he's going to run?
I think he might. It's interesting. I said to him, would you be more tempted to run as Sarah Palin didn't run? And he said actually the complete opposite, because he fancied his chances more as the moderate against someone like Sarah Palin, which makes sense if you think about it. So I've got a feeling that he, a little bit bruised from what happened before, and now quite fancies a run, which could be very interesting.
Interesting. Piers, great first week. Congratulations.
Thanks, Anderson. It's a pleasure to be on your team.
Well, good evening, everyone. We have breaking news tonight. One of the most controversial voices on television, not to mention a fierce competitor and a pretty fair talent in both news and sports, is out of a job. MSNBC's Keith Olbermann, host of Countdown, the highest-rated program on MSNBC, out the door so suddenly a few there apparently didn't get the memo in time. The network was still running promotional spots with his face on it an hour after he signed off for the last time this evening. He closed with a story about being fired.
In the mundane world of television goodbyes, reality is laughably uncooperative. When I resigned from ESPN 13 and a half years ago, I was literally given 30 seconds to say goodbye at the very end of my last edition of SportsCenter. As God is my witness, in the commercial break just before the emotional moment, the producer got into my earpiece and he said, can you cut it down to 15 seconds so we can get in this tennis result from Stuttgart?